Welcome to Pull the Pin Already War Room Edition. I'm your host, Jim. With me, as usual, Mike. Our guest today is Jerry.
That's my dude, man.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. You ready to pull the pin?
Not quite.
Hey, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself there?
Well, I was born up just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, raised in Western North Carolina, just outside of Asheville. When I turned 18, I joined the Navy, did 10 years, enlisted in the Navy, got out, went to seminary, did 10 years in the Army. And so I kind of totally changed paths. And when I was in the Army, I was a chaplain. So I served in the Army for 10 years, and the Army and I thought it was a good time to say goodbye.
They didn't ask you to go back to the Navy?
No.
So the Army spoke to you about getting out, but not God.
God spoke through the Army.
Okay.
God allowed the Army to speak.
Yeah, there you go. That was the vessel, right?
God's strong hand, a.k.a. the USA Army.
Yeah. So where'd you serve?
Various locations. The first one, Fort Polk, Louisiana, in the Army. And we had looked over every post possible that we could get stationed at, and we'd only breezed over Fort Polk because we thought there's absolutely no way we'll be stationed there. And I literally, when I got the call from the accessions officer that I was going to be stationed at Fort Polk for my first assignment, my wife cried. I mean, it was bad.
So you heard about it then?
I heard, yeah.
You heard, yeah. I heard about it also. Glad I never went.
Yeah, the people, Louisiana people were great. The culture was rich. The food was excellent. But I have explained everything good about Louisiana. I'm done.
Okay, got it.
Well, my best friend in basic training was from Shreveport, Louisiana. Yep. I went to visit him once, but I really don't even know what Louisiana was about because I wasn't there long. They all kind of look the same as you start traveling down the South states.
Yeah.
They kind of blend.
Louisiana commonly uses this cheap road material. I don't know what it is. It's not like asphalt and it's not like cement. It's like a brown asphalt almost they use. Their roads are constantly cracking and having seams repaired. But anyway, this material is on the same roads on post, and it used to get so hot, so humid so early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I remember during morning PT, there would be like a condensation sheen on those roads, and they were almost like greasy. So it's trying to run and stay up on those roads. It was strange. It was an experience.
Maybe it was grease. Like, don't they like a lot of fried food down there?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a racist thing, Mike. What are you talking about?
I didn't say anything about race.
Oh my gosh. I knew you were going to go there.
Oh yeah. That's
Put
where
on that race card. You always do that.
So Jerry, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Which was better, Navy or Army?
Heck, who do you root for in the game?
Yeah. Good thing I'm not a sports fan, but it's not even close. Quality of life is definitely the Navy. I mean, the quality of life is just so much. It's so different. It was definitely like day and night. And the strangest thing between the Army and the Navy, I think, because there's lots of differences, and it was kind of neat to see both sides and be able to compare and contrast. But one of the biggest differences in the branches is that in the Navy, the higher you're up, the more you get. The more privileges you get, the more it's seniors first in the Navy. Everything is about rank. And in the Navy, it's like if you want to get taken care of as an enlisted person, make chief. And that's what they'll tell you. It's like, hey, you don't like being the last one off the boat when we pull into port. You don't like that you can't get a sandwich anytime you want to from the mess hall, make chief. And I learned that mentality from the Navy is higher up gets more. If you want better, just make more rank. And the contrast, of course, is in the Army, it's juniors first. You look out for your guys, make sure they eat first, and make sure that your guys are taken care of. Like in the Navy, if there was a special assembly and there was food and a cake involved or whatever, junior guys wouldn't get that. If there was any left, the chiefs would take it.
That's why they're all fat and overweight.
And when I was in the Army, I saw like food left over, and the first thing these guys would do is offer it to their E1, E2 and say, "Hey, you want some food home?" And so it was a complete it's just a completely different, it's bizarro world. So they had one more thing before I forget. I was going to say they had, like at a barber shop in the Navy, they have a specific seat, E7 and above. So you walk into the barber shop, and if you're an E7, there could be an E2 that's been there, for 30 minutes waiting for a haircut. As soon as that seat comes open, that chief that just walked in gets that seat.
Wow.
So, but it's not that Navy are bad people. It's that their branch mentality is just different.
It's the only way they can find rewards. So it sounds like you were just about to be privileged in the Navy, and then you got out, and then you went in the Army, and all the privilege was gone because you'd used it up in the Navy. Is that how it works?
Well, actually, I made chief in about 7 years in the Navy, and so I was one of the, I guess you'd say, entitled ones in the Navy culture. The other thing is interesting about, I think, Navy versus Army. In the Navy, they call them Mustangs. If you were prior enlisted and became an officer, and really regardless of what branch you were in, if you were a Marine officer or Marine enlisted and became a Navy officer, but they call them Mustangs, you're prior enlisted. And those guys got a lot of respect because they've cleaned toilets, they've swept floors, they've went to boot camp, they worked their way up, and they started at the bottom. But in the Army, it didn't really matter to anybody. I know a few people know the Navy system and know chief's a pretty big deal. But I mean, generally speaking, in the Army, they could care less that you were prior enlisted E7. Like, it didn't make a difference that you were a prior enlisted officer, if that makes sense. But the Navy's huge in it, and they really have the respect of the junior guys and really hit it off with them.
I'm sure it's hard for Army guys to even, I don't want to say like mean, but have respect for prior Navy anyway. I mean, I don't think Army guys look at the Navy as a force of fear and reckon. I mean, it's just like we drive boats and we'll take you there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so the respect's probably got to be earned once you get to the Army.
It reminds me, I was in a crowd of like, I use as an icebreaker. I was in a crowd of infantry guys, and I was introducing myself, and I'm like, so I came from the Navy. I said I was a prior chief, which is an E7 in the Navy. I said, I got it. That's like an E2 in the Army. And then nobody laughed. Nobody out of the whole room. I'm like, damn, tough crowd.
That's true. That's true. That's the way they look at it, man. Yeah, that's funny. So when did you get out of the Army?
I've been out for about 5 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I got into, strangely enough, I actually got into antiques and became an antiques dealer and business partnered in an antique store. I kind of had enough of that, and I still buy and sell and still have a space in the store that I lease out, but I'm not an owner anymore. So I jumped out of that, went to be a police officer and was a cop for a little while. And then the biggest change you could think of from a police officer, now I'm in school to be a social worker. So
wow.
Police officer, chaplain to police officer to social worker.
One can say you've seen it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the deal is, I can't tell, as being in social work school, I can't tell any cops that I know that I'm a social worker now because they'd hate me. And
Yeah.
I can't tell the social workers I used to be a cop because they'd hate me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I just had to be quiet and take policemen off my resume when I applied to social work school.
Yeah. So when you well, are you working around any military right now? No affiliation with the military at all?
No, I'm completely retired. My only affiliation with the military is the VA.
Yeah. Okay. So based off of the news, and maybe you might hear some talk around the water cooler or whatever. What would you say is the difference between the military today and the military when you were in?
Like when I was first in, when I was early enlisted,
Yeah, sure.
I think, man, that's a great question. I think a lot has changed. Part of it is I just don't think. Well, I just be honest with you. This might not be a popular position, but when I was in the Army, even versus the Navy, so halfway into my career, I was telling other soldiers, I was like, listen, if we had a World War III like we had a World War II, I don't know that we could win it today. I don't know that enough of our military has the heart and dedication that these guys that fought in World War II and the sacrifices they gave, looking at the things that we as soldiers can't deal with and complain about and have drama with, and
So would you say that it's probably the bad word, but I'll take the hit for it. You say that soldiers today, in some sense, are weaker?
Or softer, maybe softer.
yeah,
I don't know which is worse.
Well, it depends if you're using your hands or not.
Oh my God.
I hate to be on a veteran show and say this as a veteran myself, but I mean, man, I guess I can include myself in the mix. I just don't think that we have the World War II mentality and force. I mean, if you watched Band of Brothers, have you watched it before?
Is that who's that? Mel Gibson?
It's a whole series, yeah.
It's a series like a
Oh, it's a series. No, I didn't see it.
on World War II. These guys and veterans will talk about in clips in between episodes. They'll talk about their experiences in World War II, and I just remember one of these guys said, if you, this guy said, I knew people from my neighborhood that were drafted and didn't make the cut for some reason or got disqualified, that killed themselves just from
wow.
The stigma and the pressure of wanting to serve their country and do their part and win the war, Well,
it's interesting, Jerry, because like I go down, there's a vet center here. There's a lot of old timers there, and you listen and look at some of these guys. I mean, guys in wheelchairs, still, I always say that stuff too. Even now when people say, "Hey, thanks for your service," I don't respond. I don't take it very well. Not that I'm just dismissing the sacrifices that I've made or other people have made. And there are some tough guys out there now that are these people you're talking about. But I do understand. I think the people before me did make a more sacrifice, and they didn't have the technology and luxuries we had. I mean, it was just that simple. All of their stuff came from grit and heart,
So when I guess part of why I come from this position is I served in a AIT battalion for light wheel vehicle mechanics. So when I was in this, atmosphere for a couple of years, and the amount of men, really, that's another crazy thing. I never really dealt with women that were trying to get out of the Army in a AIT environment. Most women that I dealt with, if they had something they wanted to see the chaplain about, it was hey, I'm under stress. I got some bad news from home, etc. But countless dudes just wanted to quit. They didn't want to do it anymore. It was too hard. They didn't like PT.
It's a lot harder than Call of Duty, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's not the same.
So
you don't get potato chips, couch time, and reset button.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was covering for the reception battalion, brand new, fresh off the bus, civilians coming to be soldiers. I was covering for that chaplain, and I'll never forget this guy, grown man. I had to go over and see him because he was hysterical, and this guy was crying and whelping and couldn't hardly breathe, and wanted to. This isn't what he signed up for. This is too tough. This is a different world. This is, and the sad thing was, and this is why I won't forget him, is the reason he came in the Army was because he didn't have any other income. He had like 5 kids. His wife didn't work, and he had no health insurance. So I'm like, man, this is a grown man. And he was older too. He wasn't like 18. I mean, he was, 26, 28. And with all these kids, and all he had to do to take care of his family was lose his cell phone and be yelled at a little bit. And I dealt with so many people that wanted to get out and wanted a way out and couldn't take it anymore and couldn't deal with the stress of AIT. And I just don't think we had what they had typically in Vietnam and World War II and the Korean War. And it pains me to say that, but
I think you'd make a horrible recruiter.
yeah.
Just throwing that out there. You can't handle it. Don't bother. Go down there, join the Air Force.
I'm not a runner. I never have been, but I would be running 2 miles with these kids, and he's 18 to 22, most of them 18 to 22 years old in AIT, falling out of PT test, falling out of 2 mile run. They've already graduated boot camp. 2 miles for a soldier that graduated boot camp, it's 18, 22, should be nothing. But, literally crying during their PT test, dropping out before 2 miles. And I'm like, I'm jogging with them, yelling at. I'm not even a runner. I'm not bragging on myself because I'm not good. But I'm like, man, I'm better than this. I'm yelling at these kids. There's soldiers out there outside the wire in Iraq and Afghanistan. All your country wants you to do today, all they're paying you for is to run 2 miles. you know?
Well,
Exercise.
it's a lot harder to run with a cell phone,
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask you this, Jerry. If you were king for a day, what would you do to affect make a positive change?
On anything or in the military?
Let's say stick with the military. Then we can go to anything so he can prep for it.
So if you were commander in chief for the day, then
Yeah.
there you go.
What would I do for the quality of?
You see how the military, you see how the military, you could use Army or Navy since you spent an extensive amount of time in both, how it used to be versus today. So what would you do as commander in chief to try to get it back to the way it used to?
I'll be honest with you, brother. I don't know how this much change over the last, say, 20 or 30 years of military. I don't know how a person in a day or a week or a year could get it back. I think there's been, it's obvious, and especially the biggest branch when it comes to amount of people, the Army. The Army will write, I've learned this too, the Army writes a waiver for everything. The Army loves waivers. When they want something or they need something, it's waiver time, bro. And they'll get that pen out and they'll just start doing policy changes and waivers. So, when there have been pushes in numbers to get numbers of recruits, they just drop the standards. And they, when the Army used to kick soldiers out for, I guess, now they've gone back and forth on this, but there was a time where they stopped kicking soldiers out that would, when you got to a school, was it ANOC and BNOC, and you failed your PT test.
Yeah.
The way it used to be is you wouldn't be offered at school again, so eventually you'd phase out and time out.
Mm.
I think they have started that back somewhat, depending on your command and how they put it in the system, or et cetera. But I mean, and I think the same goes for officers too. I've seen officers fail out of these officer schools in the Army, and they'll be like, "That's all right, I'll be back." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll send back, and they fail out because they fail height, weight, or they fail the PT test, and they just give them another chance. So I think that's one of the things that standards, as the Army has needed things, they've changed their standards around, and they've kind of catered to the needs of self needs and drop standards to get the amount of people.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, eventually some of those people make 7, some of them make 8, some
Yep.
of them make 9.
Then they start to make a difference in our military.
Some of them are, were company commanders that were crappy and didn't deserve to be captains. And because of the way they rode the wave and the numbers and their branch, they'll be battalion commanders and they'll lead troops.
Yep.
Yeah, I met a few.
They didn't even lead a company well, but they'll be a battalion commander.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What do you think about the state of America?
I think we're in kind of I guess I would say unprecedented times. I was just telling my kid yesterday, my 17-year-old, I think 2020, potentially 2021 are going to be years in the history books, in U.S. history and world history, that 20, 30 years from now, people will be looking back and studying and saying, man, what happened? What happened? Those were crucial years in the development of the country, the world. We're changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a meme today, and I love memes. I used to not like memes, but I saw a meme today. My 10-year-old son sent me a meme. It was about one of the, the whole attack on the Capitol thing. They showed this raggedy lady and said, this lady got past the security. Like this tactical genius got past. And it was just so funny. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, holy cow, like this is where we're at. Like,
yeah,
I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, I saw, my wife showed me a meme from one of her friends on Facebook that's a nurse, military nurse, but it was in response to all the protesters and the tens of thousands, at least, of people that were lining the streets, and they needed more reinforcements out there. She said, send in the social workers. I think it's funny from a cop standpoint, when I used to be a cop, and of course, from a social worker standpoint, it's even funnier. So,
well, I think you'd be the prime social worker then. Then you'd have to be like, all right, I did have a little law enforcement background.
Yeah,
I can go handle it. Yeah, they'd all be looking at Jerry.
Yeah.
you may be looking at one of the only conservative social workers when I finish my school that you'll ever see.
So let me ask you this. Let me cut this off. Sorry about that, guys.
There's always interruptions on these shows. I mean,
Yeah,
my dog,
yeah.
let me tell you, Jerry, my dog literally, as dumb as dogs are, they're just as smart. Literally waits till I do my intro, and then she'll go stand at the door ringing the bell till I let her out.
Yeah.
She's ringing it now. I don't know if you can hear it, but she's still ringing the bell.
In all seriousness, I thought about 3 minutes ago as I look at the clock, I said, man, here they come. I thought my kids were about to run in here again. We always have it.
We don't mind interruptions in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else you want to talk about there, Jerry?
Let's go back to, and just I'm still in this Navy versus Army in my mind.
God, you must be beating yourself up because you're both, man.
I gotta mention this though. In the Navy, right? It's truly a work hard, play hard mindset.
Hmm.
The Army is just work hard, work hard. When the Navy goes out to sea, it's like being in the field. You work longer hours, you're away from home. You might have guard duty or watch, the Navy calls it. So, we would go out to sea for, say, 20 days. And the captain of the boat knows everybody's working hard and late. So then we pull into a port. And if the captain was pleased with the crew and there wasn't any big issues on the ship, he would say it's a Liberty port. And that would mean, you got off if you weren't in a duty section, or I don't know, the Army doesn't really have an equivalent. If you didn't have guard duty that day and you had to stay as a security team or on a guard duty roster, our ship was on like 4 sections. So 1 out of 4 days you worked. If it was a Liberty port, you got 3 days off. So if you were there 7 days, you probably worked 1, maybe 2 days and got the rest of the days off. You just did what you want to do. Like I said, the Navy was truly work hard, play hard. And then in the Army, we'd go out to the field for a damn month. I'd come back and I would look on the schedule. I'd be like, listen, these 2, you're already laughing. These 2 days this is the battalion schedule. It says recovery. And they're like, well, that's for the gear. That ain't for you.
You're going to be doing the recovery.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't realize that until I was at like my 2nd unit. And I was tired of it never happening. I had to ask. They're like, oh, yeah, that ain't for the soldier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently in some units it could happen, but not the units I was in.
Yeah, most of the time they come back, they probably have some block leave or something like that where, hey, during these 2 weeks, everyone's off. But you got to use your leave time.
Well, sometimes you got good commanders and they do mandatory fun days and just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a while to really understand the value in that. Like a company barbecue where you had to go. I always felt it was bad. It looked bad if you have to force your people to go to a barbecue and, like Jim just stated, have fun. I always thought that was bad. But, later on in life, as I grew through the ranks and even after the military, I see the value in it now.
So when I was in the Navy still, so 94 to 2004, especially 96, 97, they were still serving beer and alcohol at company picnics, they call it, or a battalion, not a company, battalion. I guess they call them a ship picnic or a ship fun day.
A shipnick?
Yeah.
A shipnick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would go to some place, because Navy ships are always in conjunction with the beach somewhere. You go to the beach and play volleyball, and they would rent out the officers club or the chief's mess, and you'd be on the beach playing volleyball, drinking beer. Yeah, and times changed not long after that.
Yeah.
And they would purchase that beer with MWR funds. So
Yeah. Yeah. But then you started slowly having a lot of incidents. Yeah.
I remember one time we were in where were we at? San Juan, Puerto Rico. The Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico. It's a Navy base just outside of San Juan. And we had pulled in there, and we had a company ship's picnic or whatever, and the captain was there on the beach, with everybody, and we ran out of beer that was MWR funds or whatever. And I remember the captain, you don't see this anymore either. The captain gave his personal credit card to one of the guys. It was like the duty driver of the van. He said, hey, go to the class 6, we call it, not the package store. Go to the class 6, spend $200 or $300 it was. And he said, get us some more stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that also.
Yeah. Those times are long gone.
Oh, yeah, they're gone. They're gone.
Maybe that's the compromise, between the stress stuff. I mean, maybe it's more about, the entitlement than it is the inability of soldiers to be tough anymore. Maybe they're just entitled. Like, in the era we live in now, you can't spank your kids because they'll sue you. You know what I mean? So maybe that's what kind of forced the change. Maybe it wasn't the way around. It wasn't the let's not hurt them because they're soft. Maybe it was like, hey, if we do this, they're going to get me in trouble, ruin my career.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what was a big driving force in the change.
Oh, I think it's a number of things, and I was told that one of the main things when they're going through basic training is that when these certain kids who have parents who are connected to politicians, and they don't like the way things are going in basic training, and they call home to mommy and or daddy, and then they call that politician, and then the politician somehow affects change, and then it's just a trickle down effect, if you will. Oh, you can't do this. Well, you didn't do it to Jim in the last cycle, so we have to. Hey, here's another policy. You can't do this now.
Well, that's I mean, come on,
Yeah.
Mike. There's white privilege there too, though.
Oh my God.
You know, that reminds me of when I was at that training command. That was the time they were switching the PT test from the old test to the new test.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the PT, not just the test, the whole cycle of
Weight.
PT. No, how you perform PT. They
Oh, okay. Yeah.
where it's not just run 3 days a week and beat your body down the other two. It was like a set, more like calisthenics. But apparently they were doing this. I talked to someone came and talked to our battalion that was on this part of this team that helped develop this new PT regimen on Fort Jackson, because Fort Jackson's like the training flagship of the Army. But they had to develop this because these young soldiers were coming in and getting hip fractures. Have you heard this?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So there's like a phenomenon where soldiers were getting hip fractures, and you can only have like 2 hip replacements in your life. There's the way it works. You can only get 2, and they've got to be like, they're usually 20 years apart or 22 years apart or something. But the deal is these soldiers were getting hips broken in basic training from normal Army PT, the way it's always been done. And with that, they know looking forward, hey, he can only have 2 hip replacements. By the time he's 78 or 75, he can't even have any more, and he's not going to be able to walk. He'll be in a wheelchair. So apparently, when they researched this, why they changed the PT program in the Army was when they researched this on why. It was a combination of, 1, not drinking as much milk, and 2, I think the main reason they said was lethargy, that these kids weren't going outside and playing and getting the activity that most kids got when they were during your childhood and all the ones before us.
Yeah.
And so their tendons, and the tendons that are holding everything and strengthening everything in their muscles, aren't as developed, and that's why they were breaking their hips. So it's like, it just reminded me when you said, hey, what would you change? Like, that's something the Army had to change, because they were just breaking people's bodies, and it wasn't just 1 or 2. I guess I wish I remembered the statistics, but the numbers of young people outside of the Army that had broken hips at that age is almost 0. I mean, it's nationwide. It's like nothing.
Oh, okay.
The Army
That makes sense.
I don't know how many a year, but the Army had numbers per year.
Yeah.
So, but something like that is crazy, man. It's like, how do you go back and you fix that?
Well, you do know that I was actually put in for hip replacement, but they said I was too young. They said it's not worth it right now. Wait a couple of years or go till you can't take it no more, because the technology is not good enough. You'll be back at 10 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was actually put in, and I was going to mention that too. And in our day, there weren't so many precautions. Like, I literally have like a bulge in my thoracic, and doctors don't find that because there's like no bend there. But I remember the way I did sit-ups, I would slam the ground, slap my elbows, come back up. Like, that was normal. And I did very well in sit-ups. So I continue to do that because that's how I performed. But all the injuries I've got now because of pushing it through the military, maybe that's part of it too. Maybe they're saying, hey, we're risking, on the other end of the VA, we're getting what we get out of these guys, but we're tearing them down. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, that thing's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, with some definitely to consider. I mean, we could have a whole episode on why the Army's changed. We could do that too. Let us go ahead and pull the pin on this hole here because we're pushing the time. But we're going to move into the opportunity where we give you the chance to just pick some random thing that just irks you or annoys you or just want to scream about whatever. And go ahead and take your time doing that, and then we'll close this out.
I'm gonna have to pick on my fellow veterans that get into VFW and wear all the big pins on their hat. You got a pin for every place that you ever been. You got a pin for kitchen patrol. You got a pin for your PT test. You just got to cut it out. Remember, I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, that movie, and he's got the jacket with all the pins on it.
Yeah.
That is good because I've seen that too, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. I was like,
A
dang.
walking collection there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Jared, that was good. It's a good way to end this out here, dear. We do appreciate you coming on here.
Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, we catch you next time. Some good insight there.
I appreciate y'all having me.
And that is all the time we have for this episode. We enjoy we enjoy it all the time. So we thank you for tuning in, watching us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to catch you next time. Till then, Godspeed.
And pull the pin.
Thanks for joining us here. Pull the pin already. We hope you had as much fun as we did. If you like what we do, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. But most importantly, leave a comment below. Let us know if you agree or disagree with our opinions. Hope to see you here next time on Pull the Pin Already.